Cristal Ortiz. I am now a junior at Duke and I am majoring in neuroscience. I have a lot of involvements here at Duke, but I'll talk more about it when it comes to my college experience, which I might make a video about that. It might be fun. And yeah, in high school I did a lot of things. I graduated from high school in 2021. I attended Clinton High School in Clinton, North Carolina. Also graduated from the local community college with my associate's degree in 2021 as well. I think about high school very happily now. I feel like I made my high school the best experience I could have made it, and I'm very thankful and grateful for all those sweet high school moments. Which I'm grateful for college too, but it's very different. It's very different. In high school, I was involved in a lot of things. I did a lot of sports. I tried out tennis my first year. I did soccer freshman to senior year, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. I did cross country starting my sophomore year because it turned out I was like pretty decent at running. So I did cross country my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then my senior year, since COVID had hit the year before, it kind of made like sports a little more spaced out, so I could like squeeze in another sport after soccer, and that was track. And I did track my very last year of high school. In cross country, I want to say I did have some achievements. I would place first in my conference race. I participated in the regionals race as well. I think my highest position I placed in regionals was 11th in the region, which is, I was pretty proud of that, and I'm still am. And then that qualified me to states race, so I have also competed in the states race, which is a whole other beast. And I made it to states. I qualified for states and regionals sophomore, junior, and senior year. And when I did track, I also I did long distance for track. I did the mile and the 2 mile, and for that I also placed for states, which was insane. It's a really different experience running in cross country and in track. Those state championships, I really hold them dear to my heart. They taught me a lot about who I am. You know, it's just you running. It's just you in your mind. And I felt like I learned a lot about myself while I was running, which kind of sounds a little cheesy, like, you know, whatever, who cares? But that's just one of the things. Yeah, and I did track, I mentioned that. Some things I was involved in. I was part of the exec towards my junior, senior year of Key Club and National Honor Society. I also participated in science competitions when I was in high school. I did one at NC State University. The different programs, I did a lot of volunteering in high school. I took a lot of classes. Like I said, I was taking classes at my high school. I was also taking AP classes at my high school. But along with my AP class, I was also taking classes at the community college to get my degree. So I would say my heaviest semester when I was in high schooler was with, I don't want to say a false number, but like 8 classes. Maybe, I might have to check it. But the thing is, these aren't like 8 short classes, they're like pretty long classes. They would be at 2 different institutions. One was like virtual. Yeah, and it kind of worked out because I was thinking I couldn't take college classes until my junior, senior year. So that was when I was fulfilling in like my 2 years of college already. And the idea when I was in high school was that I was just going to transfer over to a state school and graduate in 2 years. So I've been graduated from college now if I went down that path. But the opportunity of attending Duke came in, which is going to be a 4-year opportunity, getting my undergrad, my bachelor's degree here. I just did that instead. But if not, I really recommend, you know, if you want to save some money, if for some reason you want to save some time, which you're never in a rush in your life, like there's never a timeline to get things done. I think it's a great opportunity. So I got my associate's degree. I also got certified as a Spanish translator in the community college. But I instead accepted a full ride to Duke University, which I'll talk more about my scholarship. In high school, I was pretty active. Did lots of volunteered local cleanups. Also tutored in high school. I also worked during high school. Yeah, I was working. First, I had a job at McDonald's back home. I also worked as a waitress in a Mexican restaurant. I was a pretty busy kid, and I feel like I'm still even busier now. I also did marching band when I was in high school. I played the clarinet, was also clarinet section leader as an upper higher classman. And yeah, I did soccer. I also did club soccer. my last years of high school, which is like not with the high school. And yeah, I just think I personally am a very active, busy person, and I enjoy being active and busy. There's a lot of things I can talk about, like why I got interested in neuroscience and how I knew I wanted to do neuroscience. But I can talk about more of the process of for my stats in high school. I had a 4.0 GPA when I was in high school, and then 4.6 if you took into account my whole classes I was taking at community college. So you're pretty good stats. Don't let stats like deter you. I took SAT subject test and ACT regular test and ACT. My ACT was a 27, I believe. My SAT was not that high. It was a 1200 something. My ACT, I already said that, 27. My SAT subject test, I took a subject test, I believe it was in history. It was in English or history. I'll get back to that. Which I scored a 700 out of an 800. I took a molecular biology one, and I took one more subject test, and they were like pretty high range ones, so it kind of showed like I knew my stuff. In that thing, the subject test. Quick story, I didn't even know I signed up for this subject test until I showed up to my testing center, and they were like, oh, you signed up for your SAT subject test, so you're gonna have to be in a room by yourself. When I got there, I had no idea I had signed up for them. I realized it was a mistake from my part, and I didn't even realize I showed up, which is kind of crazy. I unintentionally took SAT subject tests, and I did pretty well on them, which was kind of impressive to say. I took AP, I took AP World History, I took AP Government and Politics, I took AP European, AP Human Geo, AP American. So it was a lot of history classes. I got all my history credits in. And my school only offered 6 AP classes in total, which is the ones I just named in a calc class, which I did not take AP calc just because I was taking community college math. I had other involvements when I was in high school. I played the guitar at my local community church. I've been playing the guitar in the choir for some years now. Yeah, and some things I just pointers for your personal statement. I feel like the university just wants to know you as who you are as a person, your identity. And that's what I wrote, Crystal, not Crystal. So I know my hair looks like a mess, but that's okay. We're not here about my hair. We're here about what I wrote, okay? And yeah, those are all the moments I can think of from the top of my head when I was in high school. I probably did more stuff. I did a lot of participation, a lot of volunteering, a lot of trash pickups when I was in high school. Volunteering was very important to me. I would also volunteer at the local thrift store in my hometown, and just, you know, keeping myself busy. I am naturally a busy person. Not everyone likes to be busy all the time, but I do. So that is still one of my characteristics to this day. Now that I'm here at Duke, I have other involvements. Well, I'll tell you more about once I tell you information about my application process and all the stuff I did when applying to Duke, which is, you know, a good amount. But you are here to hear about the personal statement, which is gonna make me reminisce to my younger days. When preparing for my personal statement, here are some tips, here are some guidelines, here are some things to think about. Your personal statement is the only time when the university admissions officers can see who you are as a person. You know, don't talk about your achievements when in your personal statement. Actually, I don't know, you do whatever you want. But I personally did not write about achievements I did during high school. Your application is you as a whole person. Okay. So getting into my personal statement, I wanted to write more about who I am as a person. I was also recommended to write about me, about how I felt about my identity. When it came to putting together this personal statement, it was a lot of like thinking, brainstorming, wanting to know like, okay, who am I as a person? How do I think of myself as a person? And it came down to my name. My name is Cristal, but it's not spelled Crystal. It's spelled Cristal, which, I mean, you might think about like, oh, who cares? it's just your name, like however the way it's spelled, you know what I mean? Like that's such a small detail, which I can understand, like who actually cares? There's much important more stuff to think about. But when I write in this personal statement, it's about me. It's about what I care. Um, it's not about what you care, you know, whatever. It's not about what other people care. It's about what you care. It's about you. It's personal. And my name means a lot to me for many reasons. My culture, who I am as a person, growing up, and not only like my experience through my name, but the different other like connotations, the good and the bad connotations, you know, with my name, with who I am as a person, uh, and just different life experiences that I felt like the best way I could like share this life experiences would be with talking about my name and connecting it to other experiences. So I recently took a creative writing class. I'm going on a tangent, I know, but in the creative writing classes, there's this idea of recursion. So when you're writing, you kind of want to start off with like one sentence, one idea. And the idea is that you build up upon that idea in your writing. So I started off with my name, Cristal, the way it's spelled, and I went back to my name in my writing, using like the recursion method. Not saying I'm the best writer out there, but that's just one of the things I wrote in creative writing. And I realized I implemented this without actually knowing. Like my high school self didn't really know about recursion. I knew about writing. I knew about like the whole idea of writing. I took lots of writing classes through college, not early college, through the community college program I was in to get my associates. I want to say 2 writing classes. I can't really remember right now. Also my writing classes in high school, so I knew about writing, but the idea of creative writing wasn't as explored. Um, so you have to get pretty creative when you're writing your personal statements. Well, you don't have to get, but I got creative. You know, the idea is just to get your message across. Okay, that's the end of my rant. So I kind of started from my name and I related it to different experiences, examples of my life, of who I am as a person, which you will understand once you actually hear my writing, my personal statement. Okay, I'm gonna get into it and we can talk about it later once we get through it. Cristal, not crystal. I'm sorry, it is with an I and not a Y. I told my second grade teacher with meek Spanish accented English. My face burned with embarrassment for 2 reasons. First of all, I was embarrassed by my accent. Secondly, there was another student in my class with the same name, but hers was spelled in English as Cristal. That day, I asked my mom why she spelled my name wrong, and she replied, "No, mija, es Cristal en español," which means, "No, my daughter, it is Cristal in Spanish." My parents did not know English. They came to America for a better future. I did not understand their hardship at the age of 8, and I did not understand the new world of English that I was being introduced to. As I grew older, I learned that my name defied assimilation. It held my cultural Mexican roots. My family relatives call me Cristal. My friends and acquaintances call me Cristal. The pronunciations show the tongues of different worlds. But now that I value my name, I wouldn't change it for anything. My name is not incorrectly spelled. A radical statement to my autocorrect as it tries to define me. No, there's nothing to correct. It is spelled Cristal. Yes, with an I. Cristal transfers between 2 contrasting cultural worlds, my Mexican roots and my American branches. As I continued the rest of my elementary school journey, I stopped correcting the spelling of my name. It seemed like a meaningless and tiring effort. It frustrated me that it would happen again and again, so I just stayed quiet and let them spell it however they wanted. Eventually, I developed my perceptions, and I learned to value the empowerment of correcting my name. I learned not to be silent. If I can correct and educate people with something as simple as my name, then I could educate on issues no matter the situation. Cristal forms through the process of crystallization. During my sophomore year, in 2019, crystallization took place within me 9 days after I turned 16. One cold January morning, a door of bountiful opportunity shut, and a door of painful hardship opened. Being the eldest Spanish and English speaker in my family, I planned the vigil, the funeral, and the investment of the land plot. At 16, I acquired the ability to plan a funeral. It was a bittersweet moment of true adulting. Did my crystal get chipped that day? Yes, but it did not break. Moments of crystallization do not make me fragile, but rather shape me into being a strong individual. I'm not fragile while helping my dad pick out the decomposed body of a pig from a rural hog farm. I'm not fragile as I speak out against injustice and join movements such as Fighting for Justice for Vanessa Guillen and George Floyd in the middle of a global pandemic. I'm not fragile when I learn to use my ability to break the silence. My 8-year self knew I was never fragile when I corrected the spelling of my name. I am a crystal that does not break. Instead, I crystallize in growth. My name does not include why, since I do not wonder why I exist. Instead, it includes I, for I know who I am. I am Cristal Ortiz. And that's it. That's my personal statement. I actually have not read it aloud in a long time. Feels different reading it 3 years later after I first wrote this. Yeah, I feel like it says a lot about where I was at that point in my life. This was during the time period I was applying to colleges. The summer after my junior year, this was summer of 2020, early fall 2020. And this was a time when the pandemic was still very, very present in our lives. And I feel like this really captures who I was at that moment, captures the moment in life I was in during that moment, my experiences up to that point. Um, and yeah, just breaking it down, I talk about my name. And the reason why I chose to talk about my name is because there's a lot of things that can connect with my name, that connect to my personal experiences. One of those is that of the experience of like being a Mexican American. Um, and it feels like two different worlds. And I talk about it. I talk about my name being pronounced in Spanish, which is Cristal, my name being pronounced in English, which is Crystal. And it's just, the names itself are very different. In the worlds in which I am called Cristal and the world where I'm called Crystal can be very different. Sometimes there's overlap in both worlds, which is beautiful when they overlap. But growing up, it would be very different. In school, I'd be Crystal, back home, I'd be Cristal. And I felt like navigating the definition of being a Mexican American different in the way of like having two different cultures and learning to balance them and learning my own identity growing up and like, am I really Mexican or am I really American? Like, am I neither? I feel like up to this point you can still feel like that. You could go to Mexico and they'll tell you, oh, you're not really Mexican though. You could be here in America and they could tell you, oh, but you're not really not American though. And you're just like, well, what am I? And I feel like growing up, I felt that a lot. Just, as a kid, you grow up, you figure out a bunch of stuff, who you are. Um, I mentioned that I did not speak English till I was 7, which is when I started school. And just navigating that path of learning a new language in a new world it was pretty hard. And I think it has really shaped who I am today. Moving on, I talk more about my personal experience, which you have now heard. And I add this as an analogy to an actual crystal. And I try to connect two different perspectives in my personal statement. They may seem abstract, and that way I can show my way of thinking, of how I think. Like, I'm thinking I am a crystal, although literally I'm not a crystal. My name is Cristal, but I'm not a crystal. I try to figure out a way where I can be like, hey, this is what I experienced back, and kind of like compare it to this. And kind of like through that way show how I got better, how I like persevered. So it's a lot of like thinking of how to connect different points. I feel like this video is mostly about my personal statement. Just know that every university wants to know why you want to go to that university, like how does it fit you. So just keep that in mind. My personal statement, I feel like it spoke for itself. Write something that embodies you as a person, that tells your story. And I think that's very important. You're important as a person, and you should share your story. And that's all the advice I have. I try to make more videos about my college experiences. I did study abroad for 4 weeks during the summer program. Here's some pictures. I went to Italy for my study abroad. And keep in mind, I'm a STEM major, so I managed to squeeze in my ALPs, which are arts, literatures, and performances requirements. It was amazing. I learned a little bit of Italian too. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience. Down here, pictures of Mexico, my mom. Shout out to my family. But I'd probably talk more about my college experiences. Maybe more tips about how to be involved. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Baby, you